Hello and welcome. It is Saturday, February the 13th. If you're listening live, it is Valentine's Day weekend. We've got an exciting book that's launching. We don't usually do book launches on Sunday, so I'll be spending most of my live time talking about that book tomorrow. And I really have had some stuff I wanted to talk to you about love. Just Valentine's. Let's talk about love a little bit, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about today so that we can focus on the book tomorrow. For those of you that don't know, hi, my name's Steve Kidd. I am a third generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. I love helping people find their clarity, to find the things that seem so impossible and discover in those the amazing opportunities found within. Feel free to say hi, tell me where you're listening from, live or on the replay, whether on YouTube, Pinterest, or rather Twitter, when I rebroadcast this to Instagram or Pinterest, or of course here on Facebook as well. I'm so glad to be here with you as we talk about love. So now I want to read something to you to start off with. So if you make a comment, I'll get back to you in just a second here. I do want to hear your comments, but I'm going to pull this over in front of the view screen here, so I won't be able to see your comments for a second. All right. Many of you are familiar, of course, with 1 Corinthians chapter 13. This is a very loose, cobbled together. It's actually a couple of different translations put in together to try to make, the love chapter make sense. Let's see how you feel about this. Love is patient. Love never gives up. Love is kind. Love trusts God always. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. Love doesn't strut around. Love is not jealous. Love is not conceited. Love is not proud. Love is not ill-mannered, nor is love selfish. Love cares more for others than it cares for itself. Love is not irritable. Love never forces itself on others. Love isn't always me first. I got to get mine. Love does not keep a record of wrongs. Love doesn't fly off the handle. Love is not happy when evil triumphs, but love is happy with the truth. Love never gives up on you. Love always looks for the best in you, and love never looks back. Love is eternal. There are inspired messages and so much knowledge in the world, but all of those are only temporary. There are giftings and talents that all of us as people have, but our gifts are only partial, only able to do a little bit in the world, and those too are only temporary. But love goes on and on and on to the very end. Like I said, feel free to make your comments about that. Yes, that is taken from 1 Corinthians chapter 13 out of the Bible, and it is a compilation of a bunch of different translations. So if you looked it up in one translation or another, you'd be like, it doesn't say that in mine. Okay, I kind of paraphrased it, all right? And I hope you're okay with that. The reason why I wanted to start there is because there are some powerful things. A lot of times we have to have a place to start. I love, Frank Peretti did a Piercing the Darkness and This Present Darkness. I think it was actually This Present Darkness and then Piercing the Darkness is the way the series went. Really amazing series, about essentially the angel's view of our lives here on earth. And, it intertwines the stories of the people, but there's always the angels there kind of watching it. Really interesting series. And the thing I love that just sticks with me, there's a place in there. And the lady that's on this spiritual journey, she says, to discover for the first time in my life that there was offense even if I'm on the wrong side of it. That was the most amazing thing in my life, because then I had a basis for things in life. And so I started with that because I want to start with a basic. We have to start someplace with, okay, how do we define what love is? Where do we go from here? Where do we start? You can disagree with some of those things. That's okay. This is a judgment-free zone. I'm not here. This is not a sermon or something to push something religious on you. It's just purely an opportunity for us to talk about what is love? How do you show love? How do you get love? How do you be loved? How do you feel loved? When often, especially COVID, it's real easy to be in a place where we don't, right? And so I used that series of verses. And like I said, I paraphrased them and twisted them around a little bit, not to hopefully change the meanings of them at all, but to try to make them make sense so that we can talk here for a little bit about what is love. And I really want to encourage you. Let's join together this week. All of us this week, let's focus on love. Let's focus on being loving to ourselves and to others, to complete strangers in our lives, as well as and especially to those most precious people in our lives, those dear precious angels that are our children that have been placed in our lives, even if they're grown like mine are. Your spouse or your significant other, all of those really dear and special people in your life and in your family. We want to understand love, dive deeply into love, and be love. But we also need to be loved, to feel that deeply, to know that it's true. There's nothing worse that I can think of right this second anyway than the times when we don't feel loved. That feeling in the pit of your gut, it kind of sits right there above your stomach, below your heart, that kind of just sinking, empty feeling when you're crushed in that way where you're like, oh, maybe it's a breakup. Maybe it's somebody really hurt your feelings. Maybe you reached out with love to somebody and it wasn't requited. It was rebuked. It was rebuffed. It happens. People are going to feel what they feel, and we want to allow them to be in a judgment-free zone too, and that's okay. For whatever happens in life, we want to be able to, in our own lives, forgive and release those people so that we can be love and be open to love. Does that make sense? It's hard. Trust me, I know. And if you're going through a breakup or if you're going through some difficult things emotionally in your life, you may not be in a place right this minute where you can be like, I am open to and I embrace new love coming into my life. I'll just say it like a mantra and it'll just happen. Maybe not. I'm not trying to give you something magic that's just like, and if you do this, everything will be perfect. People are people. We make mistakes. And, we talked a couple of weeks ago about grace, giving people grace so that we can get the grace when we make a mistake. And love is the ultimate version of that. How do we allow ourselves to keep our hearts soft and open, especially when something has hurt us, when we're hurting inside, when we feel crushed? How do we move from broken to together completely? The book that's coming out tomorrow, I'm going to preview it to you because I'm really excited about it. This author has kind of asked me, she's kind of asked me to kind of run with it because she's a little bit shy about it. It's adult content in some places, but the journey that the heroine in this book has gone through is so amazing to watch her grow. It makes me cry, honestly, to see the cool things that she's going through. And now we're in book 3. So the first book was called I Belong to You. The second book, The Reality of Belonging. So in the first book, she met this incredible person and for the first time really truly felt love and felt safe giving of herself in love. And then, after a wonderful weekend that they spent together, she had to go back to her real life. And she was dealing with the reality of belonging. That was book 2. So now in book 3, we come to the conclusion where they're together completely. It is a vision. It's such a wonderful view of two people being deeply and fully in love, given completely to each other, belonging both to each other. And tomorrow there's a group I posted on it. It's probably the post right below this one if you're on Facebook. And I'll be posting on YouTube both a little short excerpt from it. And I will be doing things, and I'll also be doing Facebook Lives and YouTube Lives and Periscopes, Twitter Lives, whatever. I'll be doing all of that on Instagram and all of those things again tomorrow on the book. But it's a great way to celebrate Valentine's Day. It's a great way to talk about love because we all want to move from wherever we are, whether we're in a serious relationship or we're completely alone and single. We want to move from wherever we are to being complete in ourselves, completely in love with ourselves, completely whole so that we can. I have a great client. She's just an amazing client. And it's fun to do sessions with her because even though, we're working on her book and doing a bunch of other training things, I walk away. I mean, I literally will be making notes of things that she says that are nuggets and that are, part of the book that's coming out. And, it's really fun. And one of the things that she said that's going to be part of her book is the fact that, and her name's Judy Mark. I'm not hiding her from you. Judy is an amazing one of my clients, and she's been on some of these Facebook Lives. I would love it if Judy popped on right now so that I could, shamelessly promote what she's doing. Although if you're listening live or on the replay, feel free to make a comment, and I gladly shamelessly promote you too. But she said, the problem is we all too often fall in love with someone and we get to that place in the relationship where we're planting seeds into that person. Now, there's that whole sexual element of that, and that's not really what she was talking about in that. It's more about that planting of ourselves in one another, okay? And she said the problem is that you can't plant your seeds in somebody else's garden. And often we go into a relationship, but we still belong in the other relationship. Our heart, our soul, our mind, any or all of those are still over here when we want to be sharing, planting seeds, part of each other's lives. But we can't really do that because we don't belong to ourselves. We can't belong to someone else until we belong to ourselves. And I'm diving really a lot deeper into the concepts in the book than I had intended to. I really just wanted to talk about love, but it's an exciting book and I'm excited to see it come out tomorrow. So let's talk a little bit more about what is love. How do we show love? It said so many powerful things in those verses I read to you about love being patient and kind and not keeping track of wrongdoings. Oh, I'm guilty of that. Anybody else? People hurt us. And, it could be a spouse, but it could just be, a family member. It could be a total stranger. And we can be wounded very deeply. And a lot of times, no matter how close they are to us, people don't really know that. The ones that love us and care for us, probably if they knew how deeply they had wounded us, they would do everything they can. But ultimately, it's on us. The healing of ourselves from things that come at us from external, that work then becomes our own. Wasn't ours and it got dumped on us, if that makes sense. So it's not like I believe that you put out into the universe, until somebody came around and did something evil to you, but more so that things happen because we live in the world and that's now on us. And then it becomes our stuff to deal through, to work through, to forgive and release, and to move forward so that we can have a clear, wide conduit going through our soul that we can take in and give back out love. And that's where that whole concept of not keeping track of wrongdoings, forgiving and releasing that person, because forgiveness isn't for them, it's for me. When I forgive you, I do it to release me of the bonds, of the shackles that hold me down from that event. And love, truly loving someone, is to let it go, to be like water off a duck's back, to just release the need to judge. And that's probably the biggest piece of it. We talked about that a whole lot in 2020, and it's still going to be around in 2021 here. Moving to a place where we release the need to judge ourselves and others, and to live in love, to be patient, to be kind, to not be envious of other people's stuff and want things that we don't have, to not be a person strutting around talking about how wonderful we are, but rather lifting up someone else. All are such great examples of how we can be love and be open then to love. If we live that way, if we are that way, and that's our definition of love. And I can tell you, I'm first one to be guilty of all of the opposites of those. I remember the first time I went through this exercise, and I remember the last time I've been through this exercise. And every single one of those times, I find myself challenged going, oh, yeah, I missed it on that one. I want to do better, but I'm a human being and I still make mistakes. And then we go through again the washing process. We forgive and release ourselves. And we come back out to loving ourselves, to giving love to others, to being loving and in love to others. In other words, acting in love. You see, it's so much deeper than just, I love that smushy feeling, right? When you meet somebody and you're just like, oh gosh, I'm floating 20 feet up in the air and my feet never touch the ground. It's a wonderful feeling. But the deeper stuff, that connection where two souls are bound together. And I'm not even talking about the romantic stuff. I mean, even like with your precious children. I can tell you, all my kids are grown now. They all have families of their own now. Still love those little munchkins. To me, when I hear them, I see them, and I know it drives them crazy, but I still see them as those little kids, those sweet, innocent little babies that, first of all, had to live through all the mistakes that I made. I mean, I became a parent at 19. I married a lady who had a child that was 3 years old. Yeah, I've been a parent a really long time. It's not the years, it's the mileage. Now it's the years too. But I still see, even Emily, that little girl running around drooling on the teddy bear that I had just bought for her mom when we were dating. And Amber, my little Rumpelstiltskin, who was so definitive in her personality. And I always tease that she never learned to walk. She just ran everywhere she went. I hope she knows how to walk now. And Jessica. Jessica was so different from Amber. I remember one time my parents came for a visit, and they were standing in kind of an entry-ish way that we had. And they were talking for about 5 or 10 minutes, and they're like, "So where's the baby?" I was like, "You're standing right next to her crib. She's right there." And she was so quiet. And with Amber being as boisterous in a good way, but Amber was a loud child, and Jessica was such a quiet, soft child. That was an interesting difference. And then there's Michael. Michael thinking so deeply. I mean, it was, because at one point, we're talking about 6 kids around the table between all of them, right? And Michael would say something and be like, huh? And we'd have to stop and think about the conversation like 10 minutes ago because his brain was processing it. And he was thinking it through really deeply and wanted to be able to have a deep thought in it. He didn't just, have random pop off thoughts. His mind went deep with things. And then there was little Alex in his gator boots. Oh my gosh. That kid wore those gator boots every day, every night. You'd have to peel them off of his stinky little feet to get him just a little bit clean for just a few minutes. And then he was right back into those gator boots. He lived in those things. And when I became a single parent of 5 kids, every morning he would get up and come and lay in the bed with me. And then he'd pee in the bed. But, he was there for me in a way that will always be special to me. And then there's my little birthday partner, Maya. She came around a few years later. She was always the one. There's still so many lines that all of us in the family have that are sharing things that Maya said. And she was just always that way. Love or hate Bernadette Peters, Jennifer Lopez, any of those kind of things. When Maya was into him, she was into him. When she loved Meryl Streep, she loved Meryl Streep. Wanted to see everything that she was in. Thought that she should be allowed to see the movie The Jerk with Steve Martin in it because Bernadette Peters was in it. So, she's seen, she's probably seen the whole thing now, but, way back then, she's like, I saw the movie The Jerk. And people would look at us like, you let your child see that movie? And I was like, yeah, like 2 minutes of it. But all of them. And then there's my grandbabies, and we could go on this whole time. And I had intended for it to just be a love fest to my sweet little children. But I still see them that way. And our hearts are soft, and we're still so in love with them. And that's where we need to be, letting go of all the things. We've all been through so much. And I know, at least from my place as a parent, I wish I could erase all the bad stuff. We can't change the past. But what we can do is we can love each other. We can be patient. We can be kind. We can be long-suffering. We can never hold on to wrongdoings or let them go quickly. Because when everything else, our gifts, our talents, all of the rest of the world has faded away, love remains. What is love to you? How do you define love? How do you find love? Are you madly in love right now? Or are you looking for love? I encourage you to continue on in the conversation. Let's talk about it, maybe even throughout the whole entire course of this whole next week. As we strive together to be loved, in fact, to be happy, safe, warm, and loved. I'm so grateful to be able to spend some time with you here. And I hope that things are running wonderfully for you. And that if they're not, that you can take hope and know that even in the darkest of nights, the sun will rise again. And that you will hold on to the love in your life. And until we're together again next time, you'll live as a thriving bestseller and have a great week.